Good morning. And you are, take my glasses off, I can actually see better sometimes. Good morning, and you're very welcome to my Monday messages. My name's Rebecca, and I'm a holistic health coach and homeopath. And I just pop in here every Monday to share a thought, an idea, a simple process, something you could maybe journal about, something that will help us to become more conscious of things in our lives that are working for us and maybe some of the things that are perhaps working against us and how that affects our health generally. So you're very welcome if you're watching me live, and you're equally welcome if you're watching the replay. Excuse me. So today, bit of a grand title. How did I get here? And how am I going to go forward? I'm not going to go into some really, really deep spiritual practice today. Some of you might be pleased to hear. I'm talking really more about understanding our health better. And of course that includes spiritual health if you need it to. What I'm really asking today is to spend some time understanding that actually our health, whether that's physical health, whether that's emotional health or spiritual health actually, it's a process. So part of that process is maintaining good health, and obviously that includes all sorts of different elements. It includes the building blocks of health, our food, our nutrition, what we put into our body, and whether we are actually getting sufficient fuel to make sure that all our organs and all our internal systems are working as they should. Are we getting enough sleep? Are we exercising enough? Are we getting really good quality air into our lungs and into our bodies? Because without oxygen in our cells, we don't function correctly. Are we getting what we need in terms of our emotional health? Are we happy? Are we feeling free? Are we feeling empowered? Are we feeling that we're growing and expanding or able to stay still, whichever it is? So it's a process, and working back towards health or forward towards health, whichever way you want to look at it, is always a process. There is no magic pill that you can take, and everything will miraculously all fall into place and you'll be top of your game again. Much as some people would have you believe that. There are lots of pills around that, of course, can switch off your symptoms and can give you temporary relief. But inevitably, because all you're doing really is kind of cutting the wire to the warning light, or even taking the bulb out, the problem that warning light has been flashing in your consciousness hasn't gone away. It's still there. So most people, I think, understand, and certainly probably if you're watching this, you understand that maintaining health and achieving health is not one thing, it's several things, all happening in conjunction. And what I want you to do today is start to remember that if that is true, and I wholeheartedly know it is, then actually ill health, dis-ease, is also a process. So you haven't just woken up today or last week or whenever it was with a completely random set of symptoms that are causing you problems that have just materialised out of the blue for no reason. There are some very rare exceptions to that, which are obviously around things like poisoning. But in general, chronic health issues don't happen overnight. They are a process. And the reason there are processes is that because our bodies are actually really, really clever. We're really adaptable and we're really brilliant at managing all sorts of problems, whether they're physical, whether they're emotional, whether they're spiritual. We can manage them pretty well for a time. That's what we're almost hot wired to do, if you like. That if something comes in and is a bit of a problem, we can contain it to a certain extent and for a certain amount of time. It does have an effect on us, though. If you think about the flow of our healing ability as a bit like a stream, a bit like a river or a stream, and that flow, it happens beautifully and everything works until maybe there's a big rock that appears, that gets thrown in or, whatever, into the stream. That's something that's happened to us that has affected us in some way, whether that's a physical accident or illness, whether that's a trauma of some sort. It's something that we've had to stop and look at and deal with. So it can become, especially if it's unresolved in some way, if it's just suppressed, it's left in the stream. And the stream still flows. It goes around the rock, divides, goes around the rock, whatever the course of the stream is. It will still function. But what it is doing is just using a little bit of energy. Rather than flowing, it's having to spend that energy to maneuver around the rock. And over time, as other things come in, other traumas, other things that affect us, it's actually easier for smaller things to start causing a problem and building up. So if you think back to that stream, because there's a rock there, much easier for things like sticks, leaves, other bits of mud, pebbles, all those things, much easier for them to build up, and over time they will cause a blockage. And that's pretty much what's happening with our health. It builds up and builds up. Our bodies do whatever they can to manage what's going on, sometimes for years with great seeming success. And then all of a sudden, it seems to us, the stream just gets blocked and the water doesn't flow anymore. And that's when it seems like something's just appeared out of nowhere, but it hasn't. It's been building up for a long time. So one of the first things that I do when you come to work with me is I draw up a health timeline, a bespoke, tailor-made health timeline that is yours and uniquely yours. And it's a timeline that includes everything that's happened in your life that could have affected you in some way. Now, obviously, we can't possibly include absolutely every tiny thing at the first sitting, but it's like creating a map, if you like, of how you've got to where you are today. It's a really important part of the process, I feel, because it helps us to understand why you're doing what you're doing today in terms of ill health, and that's mostly the reason that people come to me, whether that's physical ill health or emotional ill health. And sometimes people have a very, very clear idea about where things have started. Often people will come in and say, well, actually, everything changed when I had my baby, or everything changed when my mum died, or everything changed when I had that car accident, or I had that tummy upset even, or even a flu. So what I'm looking for is what I call traumas, and what people understand by traumas is often things that are really big, like being in a massive plane crash or some big cataclysmic event. And that, of course, is a form of trauma. But what I'm talking about is anything that has changed the flow of your internal health stream in any way. So what is traumatic to me may not be traumatic to you, and vice versa. So I've had plenty of people come into me and say that actually one of the most life-changing events for them was when they got lost, in a shopping centre when they were a small child, or when they somebody shouted at them, somebody that they loved shouted at them and made them feel small and embarrassed. Anything at all that has an effect on how you go forward. It changes you in some way. And we're not always aware of that. And that's really what this is about, is actually becoming more conscious of the things that change our health. And that sometimes if we're not aware of them, will set us on a path towards something that I can see is almost inevitable if something doesn't come in to clear that blockage, if you like. So I hope I'm making sense. Please let me know if I am, or if I'm not making sense. And if you've got any questions, do pop them in the thread below. So yeah, we're looking at that timeline. So we're also looking at any kind of substances that you have used over the years. Now that might be prescribed medication. It's things like vaccines, any kind of foreign substance that has been taken in over a long time basis, or even sometimes just once, because it's not about what everyone else is doing. It's about you and how it's affected you. So when we've built up that timeline, it gives us a really much clearer idea about where things are coming from and why you're doing what you're doing today. I include in that your health timeline from your parents, actually. So it's right from the beginning of your life, because it's a bit like knitting a jumper from two balls of wool. One ball comes from your mum and one from your dad. And obviously their wool comes from their families in turn. So if there's a pattern of some kind of illness, let's say, there's a strong history of lung disease in both families, let's say. So the chances are then that the tissue, the cells that you are made from, around your lungs will be perhaps a little bit weak. Now, it doesn't mean to say you're going to manifest lung disease necessarily, but it does mean that if that jumper is knitted together and those weak parts are, all scattered about the jumper, it'll be fine for a while, and then wash after wash, those bits will get weaker and weaker. Life makes our weak bits weaker and weaker if we don't put things in to strengthen them. And eventually, when it's going to start disintegrating, when it's going to start falling apart, it's those weak parts that are going to do that. So understanding our own weak parts of areas of vulnerability is really important when we're making health choices. If I know, for example, that I have a very strong history of being quite vulnerable in my hormonal system, let's say, my mother had problems, her mother had problems, I haven't had a great history menstrually, then I want to be very careful of making choices in my life around synthetic hormones, anything that's going to affect my endocrine system. If I know that I have a weakness in my lungs, let's say, that I might never have had any issues, but I know that it's not the strongest tissue in my lung area, then I want to make choices that mean that I'm going to be strengthening that area rather than inhibiting it further. So it's really empowering, actually, to look back at your health timeline and really understand it and grab hold of it so that you can make better choices going forward. So that's what I wanted to invite you to do this morning, basically, or this week. So I wanted to actually encourage you to start maybe thinking about your own health timeline and start off by perhaps just journaling. I would say minimum of 3 events or traumas or rocks in the stream, if you like, in your own life. Doesn't matter how far back you want to go. Just have a think about them. Any kind of events that you feel changed you in some way. Maybe they changed you physically, maybe they changed you emotionally, maybe both. List them out in order, in date order. So in the latest, the one that stretches further back first. And then just ask yourself a couple of questions about them. So first of all, the best thing to do is ask, how did they affect you at the time? How did you express them at the time? Did you have physical symptoms? Did you have emotional symptoms? Did you make changes in some way, either physically or emotionally? And then ask yourself, do you think that experience opened you? Did it make you more open to things? Was it a kind of aha moment? Was it a, oh my God, yes, God, I completely understand why this has happened, and it's really opened my eyes to something? Did it enable you to do something that you hadn't been able to do before? Was it helpful in some way? Was there some kind of opening or learning from it? Or did you close? Did it stop you from doing things? Did it make you protect yourself in some way? Did you think, I'm never doing that again? I'm never going to allow myself to be in that situation again. If it was physical, let's say if it was some kind of physical accident, a car crash maybe, or something like that, did you think, I'm never going to drive a car, or I'm never going to be a passenger in a car, or I'm never, did it make you think, I'm not going to do something ever again? Did it make you fearful? Did it bring some kind of fear-based emotion with it? So did it make you open? Did it make you close? And whatever you answer, ask yourself, how is that impacting on your health today? Can you see a thread? Can you see a pattern coming from whatever the learning from that experience was, and how you're using that or working with it today? And I would encourage you to think about both your body and your physical responses, as well as your emotions and your feelings, because very often they are intertwined. Or we can shut down our emotions and our body does the emotions for us, or the other way around. So that's what I wanted to invite you to do this week. And I strongly suggest that there's no judgment involved in this. It's just being an observer, just starting to think about the things that have happened to me over the years that have changed me in some way, either for the good, for my benefit going forward, or actually maybe they've closed me a bit. And then ask, how is that influencing you today? And how might it still be taking some of your energy, some of your healing energy? So, and obviously I've said 3 things, doesn't have to be 3 things, you can do 10 things if you want. And often when you start journaling like that, it does lead you on to all sorts of things. And that's what I want to encourage really, is to think, how did I get here? How did I become who I am today, emotionally and physically? And once I understand that, and I can start to see the things that work for me and the things that haven't worked for me, I can actually make much better choices going forward. I can actually start to have much more control over where my health is going. I'm not going to end up in the same place in another 10 years' time or another 5 years' time or whatever it is, because I'm actually, now I understand how I got here, I don't have to stay here. I can actually make it better. So I hope that's been helpful. And obviously, if you want to know more about working with me, then do click on the link in the post with this video. As ever, please let me know your comments and your thoughts and anything you want to share. I love hearing from you. And it's lovely to even just get a thumbs up, so that I know that I'm not alone. Oh, thank you, Sarah. That's lovely. Thanks for joining me. And yeah, let me know how you get on. And if you want to know more about putting your own health timeline together and understanding things a bit better, then do click on the link and you can book a call with me, a free call, or you can book a consultation. You can ask questions. You can just read. You can read my blogs. You can get free videos, whatever helps you, wherever you are. So thanks so much for watching, and I will wish you a very happy week, and please enjoy the wonderful weather that we're having. I hope you're all having it wherever you are. Take care. Bye.